We're getting a new look at the suspects in a series of armed robberies around the district. Take a look. This happened last week along 4th Street Southeast. The suspects threatening the victim with a knife and demanding their AirPod, their phone, their shoes, and school supplies. Look how young they are. The victim refused and began to yell. One suspect pulled out a gun. They made off with the items and ran away. That's just the latest in teen violence causing chaos across D.C., a city under siege tonight. Fox 5's Jacqueline Matter has more on the response from local leaders.
Jim, people are calling the crime out of control, and teens seem to be at the center of many of these incidents. Now, city leaders are asking some of the same questions we've been asking as well. What will it take to stop it, and who's responsible? 2 teens now in custody after 10 separate carjackings across the district, 7 of them at gunpoint. It's just the latest in a string of carjackings plaguing D.C.
It's a hot mess.
Over the weekend, a young boy shot and killed in a botched carjacking on Saturday night along D Street Northwest. We've since learned the 13-year-old had several prior carjacking offenses. And a 15-year-old girl arrested last week for a carjacking and fatal crash on Brentwood Road was allowed to go home with an ankle monitor despite her priors for robbery and theft, according to the Washington Post. We're told she was allowed to go home because DYRS said there was no space for her. The carjackings happening just a day later.
What residents don't want is finger pointing amongst public safety officials who are charged with holding to account these individuals who commit these crimes.
But that's exactly what is happening. Local leaders now pointing fingers as to who's to blame. The mayor says judges are being too lenient with repeat offenders and kids need to be in secure detention centers. Youth rehab services say they don't have enough space. In fact, Fox 5 found that the agency has 88 beds, yet the facility currently has 94 juveniles in custody. Meanwhile, council members have their own questions.
Is that we need to be clear. Did the court misjudge, or did the prosecutor misjudge, or is it the DYRS is not functioning effectively? That's not clear.
And we need to figure out who and what agency is responsible and hold them accountable for the decisions that they're making.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the young scholars of America who have been destroying liberal cities around the country because DC has declared a public emergency over the young scholar crisis, which I find to be fascinating because this is a subject that I've been talking about a lot. I feel like I've talked about this subject more than anybody, okay? I have been sounding the alarm over the young scholar crisis that we have in this country. And if you don't know what I mean by young scholars, what I mean is young thugs, teenage criminals. Okay, this is what I mean. Okay, young people under the age of 18 committing heinous acts of violence and crimes that are destroying these liberal cities. Okay, it's happening all over the country. And it just so happens that our nation's capital, DC, which is a liberal city, okay, it is also a mostly black city as well too, just so happen to be, just saying, they are experiencing the young scholar problem. And the problem is so bad, there's so much chaos in the city that they have declared a public emergency over it. So I want to talk about it, but first I got to tell you guys how to protect yourself from the young scholars. And I think the best way to do that is to spot them before they can even get to your home, which the best way to do that is with night vision goggles, which is why the sponsor of this video is Night Watch Pro. Night vision binoculars are the coolest pieces of tech that anybody can have, but until recently, they've just been too expensive for the average Joe. Luckily, newer models have caused prices to come way down. If you enjoy fishing, hunting, spotting wildlife, or you just want to keep an eye out for potential intruders or young scholars or criminals after dark, you'll find a good pair of night vision binoculars very useful. This is why myself and tens of thousands of others are getting Night Watch Pros. Night Watch Pros affordably allow anyone to see with predator-like vision in pitch darkness. They're highly effective for watching wildlife, scenic viewing, surveillance, patrol detection, home protection, and much more. Plus, they include high-end night vision features such as 4K video recording, a clear HD display, 5x zoom, anti-shake technology, and a long-lasting rechargeable battery. Tens of thousands of 5-star reviews back up the idea that Night Vision Pros are the best choice for night vision binoculars on the market. So this holiday season, give the gift of protection to your loved ones. Place your order for the Night Watch Pro now, and you'll receive exclusive free access to Prepper's Peak newsletter, free express shipping, and last but not least, 100% lifetime replacement guarantee. Simply go to nightwatchpro.com, use promo code Black Friday to get 25% off to take advantage of this deal before it runs out.
D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser declared a public emergency on what she is calling out-of-control juvenile crime in her city. Could Mayor Scott make a similar declaration here in Baltimore? Fox 45's Maxine Stryker looks into how Baltimore's crime compares to D.C. and how one expert thinks Mayor Scott will respond.
In the nation's capital, violent crime is spiking among young people.
Young people need to have consequences and boundaries.
And the mayor is taking action.
When young people are involved in violent crime, when they're 12, 13, 14, that means that those children need serious intervention.
D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser declared a public emergency order Monday in hopes of addressing youth crime. The mayor calling it an imminent threat to the health, safety, and welfare of residents. In Washington, D.C., in the first 9 months of 2023, there were 458 juvenile arrests for robbery, carjacking, homicide, and assault with a deadly weapon, a 10% increase from the year before. The mayor is calling on the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services to increase capacity for youth in their custody and for real-time monitoring of GPS devices upon their release. She's advocating strongly for tougher consequences and pushing back against the lenient laws.
We believe that more kids, as you've heard me say many times, if they've been, arrested for robbery after robbery, shouldn't be in a group home, in my opinion. They should be in a secure, detained space.
Meanwhile, in Baltimore City, youth crime also persists with little to no repercussions. Earlier this month, police say a 12-year-old boy used a gun to rob a 31-year-old man of his bike. The boy was arrested and charged with armed robbery and taken to the Department of Juvenile Services, but within hours, he was released. Within 48 hours of his release, documents show the juvenile was locked up again and charged with 2 more armed robberies. That same November day, police say a Baltimore woman was assaulted and robbed by 2 juveniles, the youngest 12 years old, both released within hours from DJS. Car thefts by juveniles are up 166% in the city. We reached out to Mayor Brandon Scott's office asking, given the state of juvenile crime in Baltimore right now, is this something you would consider? What measures are you taking to address juvenile crime?
If you say we've got a youth crime crisis, then the perception is things are out of control.
Political analyst John Deedy says he wouldn't expect to see the same action from Mayor Scott.
In an election year, the idea of calling for a youth crisis and all this stuff, I think politically they may feel this could panic the public more than anything.
Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you for watching. Here's another video for you to watch. Also take some time to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, so you've seen that, you heard that. Now, again, what is going on in D.C.? Okay, we're going to talk about Baltimore as well, too, because they're all basically the same. But in D.C., there's a violent crime crisis that is happening because of young scholars, young teenagers whose parents are apparently missing in action. Okay, they're committing crime, violent crime across the city. Now, they're catching and releasing these young criminals because they don't have bed space. So a part of the public emergency that was declared by D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser was to add more bed space in some of these detention centers so that they can keep kids detained. Okay, so again, there's a lot of blame to go around, and everybody's trying to kind of blame each other and figure out what's happening here in regards to what is, causing this to happen. But I personally think that everybody's to blame, starting with the mayor, because she is the leader of that city. Okay, but really, a lot of the blame goes on the citizens, the people that live there, because they voted for their government. They voted for the mayor. They voted for their criminal justice system. And this is what they got, right? They got exactly what they voted for. They voted for violent teenagers to be able to do whatever they want to do, okay? And to not face any consequences because it's racist to lock up black people, right? DC is woke as hell, right? It's liberal as hell. So again, this is what they wanted. This is exactly what they wanted. And not to mention, you also got to blame the parents as well too, right? You have to blame the parents because this wouldn't happen if there was not a parenting crisis in this country, particularly in these inner liberal cities, okay? There's a huge parenting crisis. The fact that you have 11, 12, 13-year-olds that are committing violent acts like carjackings, okay, armed robberies. I mean, I remember covering a story out of D.C. where you had a young scholar that literally bought a trigger finger to a gunfight as he tried to carjack the wrong undercover federal agent who happened to smoke the teenager because, again, the teenager was running around pretending like he had a gun. And unfortunately, the officer had to smoke him. Again, this was an 11, 12, 13-year-old boy. Again, it only happens in a country where parents are not doing their damn jobs. And we have to start holding parents accountable for the actions of their children because they are the ones that are responsible. And until you start doing that, you're not going to see a change. This is going to continue to happen. That and you got to get tougher on crime. Okay, if you're not going to take care of your child, then we're going to have to lock them up and throw away the key. Okay, I know some people may be pearl clutching, but that's the only solution. It's either that or you deal with the fact that these kids will be out on the streets free, no parenting, no accountability, not being held responsible for their crimes, and they're only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. They're going to commit more and more and more crimes, and eventually people are going to get hurt. People are going to die at the hands of these teenage criminals. That's what happens. So again, you either lock them up, right, throw away the key because the parents aren't doing their job, or you continue to allow them to roam free and you risk law-abiding citizens losing their lives. I'd much rather do what we got to do to protect the rest of society rather than to allow these criminals to roam free on the streets. It doesn't matter if they're 11, 12, 13 years old because apparently they're adults because they're committing adult behaviors, which means that they can suffer adult consequences. They're ready to be adults. They're living their lives as adults. Their parents aren't in their lives. They're taking care of themselves. So, hey, what's the problem with treating them as adults when it comes to, the criminal justice system? I'm just saying, it may sound controversial. A lot of people do a whole lot of pearl clutching, but I'm keeping it 100. You declare a public emergency over it. So what else are you supposed to do besides get the emergency off the street, okay? Emergency situations call for emergency trade-offs, okay? Because there's no solutions. There's only trade-offs. That's the best trade-off. That, or you can hold the parents responsible, okay? You can start, finding the parents, something like that. Something has to change. There has to be drastic changes, okay? They got to get tough on crime. They got to start enforcing the law. And they got to clean up these cities, man. And I don't think it's a coincidence that this is happening in cities that just happen to be run by liberals, but also these liberals just happen to be black. We can't forget that. Look at all these cities. DC, black mayor. Baltimore, black mayor. New York, black mayor. Chicago, black mayor. San Francisco, black mayor. LA, black mayor. They're all Democrats too, so it's probably more likely Democrat rather than being black, right? But still, okay, I'm just saying, look at the patterns here. These liberal cities are being ran into the ground by Democrats. This is what they're doing. They're running these cities into the ground, every single last one of them. And it's the same problem in every city. It's the exact same problem, the same common denominators across the board. Across the board. But hey, again, this is what they voted for. I personally believe that you got to get tough on these criminals, right? They're engaging in adult activities, so you got to treat them like adults, and that's how you handle the problem. You got to start getting tougher on them. You got to start punishing the parents. Parents need to be held accountable because we have a parenting crisis in this country. And that's the reason why you're seeing this happening, is because parents have failed across the board. And it's driving our country off of a cliff. I mean, we're in free fall, right? We're in free fall as a country, especially in these liberal cities. Okay? We might need to build some new cities, right? We need to build some new cities that are anti-liberal cities, right? New great American cities. Some of these small towns, maybe we should invest in some of these small towns with good parents, right? Small towns with good parents. We're going to make them the new great American cities. Because these cities that we have, okay, that once were great cities, are becoming third world hellholes, right? Run by criminals and gangs, okay? And, incompetent Democrats. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.